Okay. Call the meeting to order and ask you to stand with us for the national anthem.
We would like to acknowledge
that we are here today
on the traditional territory
of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation.
Nous tenons à reconnaître que
nous sommes sur le territoire traditionnel
des Mississaugas de la Première Nation de New Credit.
Thank you. Okay, and welcome to tonight's meeting. I have regrets this evening from Trustee Cameron and Trustee DeCrube. I have two additions to the blue sheets. One, I have 10.1 is the September enrollment report, and 10.2 is the transportation update. I don't have any other changes or additions to the agenda. Are there any from trustees? Seeing none, Trustee Lawton, will you move the agenda? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee B. McDonald. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Minutes, we'll move to minutes. Number 3, 3.1 is the Special Education Advisory Committee of June 12th. It's a long time ago. 3.2 is the regular meeting of the board in September 13th of 2018. Trustee Crocker, will you put those on the floor for me, please? Seconded by Trustee Williams. Are there any comments or questions with regard to Section 3? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Let's move on to, are there any written questions, notices of motion, or petitions from trustees? Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. I have 4 questions, actually, that I'd like to ask on behalf of constituents. So the first one is with regards to our concussion protocol. And in speaking with our amazing staff, so I spoke with Tara Regatta and our superintendent, Mark Harmon, who has actually answered 2 of the questions and addressed 2 of them already. But for publicly, I'd just like to say the question was asked with regards to on our operating procedure, if it clearly states that parents must be notified by a phone call. The operating procedure now states that, as well as in Appendix A or B, that it clearly states that the student has not been examined by a medical professional. And I understand that by tomorrow this will be addressed. Also, the third question was, Public Health Canada has an app that parents, teachers, and coaches use to document what has happened. Some school boards are using this app. What is Peel District School Board doing so schools are proactively using technology? So that's the questions regarding concussions. I have a question regarding the EQAO. So when the EQAO results are examined, so this is the person, I was wondering what plans other than remediation are in place to help communities that are struggling with literacy and numeracy, especially schools that are more than 20% below the provincial standard. The third question on staffing, and I was speaking to Associate Director Wendy Dowling on both topics. So a parent was concerned at a school, and she had emailed me asking about, and I'll read the question. When any Peel District School Board staff is disciplined or removed from a work site because of concerns around performance, biases, or inappropriate conduct, what measures are in place to ensure that the staff gets adequate support to address the issue or issues? And my final question is on busing. One second, as I shuffle my question. So, again, I'm quoting from the person who asked the question. I have witnessed kids standing on buses. I have had a kid giving me the middle finger until I photograph them. What is the current policy we have to remove kids like this from the bus, be it temporarily or permanently? I strongly believe riding the bus is a privilege, and poor student behavior contributes to the lack of applicants for, in quotation, bus driving training. So those are my 4 questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You have them written out? Oh, okay, there you go. I need to ask you something, Trustee McDonald, if you wouldn't mind. You said that Superintendent Harmon had already addressed a couple of points in the concussion question, and so can we eliminate that?
Okay, the first two short.
Yes. Sorry, I have to put you back in. Okay.
Yes, I didn't actually ask question 1 and 2. I was just paraphrasing what was
Okay,
done.
so the concussion
It's just
comments are just comments.
Right, no, there's
Well-
1 question in there. There were 3 questions. 2
Right.
have been addressed, so I really asked 1 question on concussion.
Okay, all right,
That's the
well,
acts.
I'm assuming that Superintendent Harmon knows which ones you're referring to, and if not, I'm sure he'll reach out to you to figure it out.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, you can go then. Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 questions for you, and they are written. 2 are from a parent, and I will add 1 of my own. So the parent has 3 children in French immersion, 2 at David Leader and 1 at Britannia Public School. He writes, my daughter in grade 8 is currently being taught all subjects in English, with the exception of her French subject. However, according to the PDSB, students in the French immersion program should be spending, and he quotes, at least 50% of their daily instruction learning in French, end of quote. This is obviously not the case. I've taken meaning the parent has taken the opportunity to speak to the principal to express his concerns. Based on our conversation, I understand she has been doing all it is possible, she meaning the principal, within her sphere of responsibility, authority, to address the situation. And Chair, I'm similarly convinced of that, having spoken to the principal and to the superintendent. Parents' questions are 2. Number 1, what is the school board doing to address the shortage of French teachers and the fact that many students currently enrolled in the French immersion program are not receiving the education that has been promised to them? The second question is, I assume that this issue is well known to the school board, so I would like to know why there has not been more transparency with parents, i.e., why have we not received any communication from the school board? I would like to know what my options are, given that my daughter plans to continue with French immersion in high school. He goes on to finish, I know that this was also an issue last year at David Leader Middle School, and it was only year 2 of the FI program at the school, and recognize that it will continue to be an issue in coming years if nothing is done. As a parent, deeply concerned with the quality of my children's education, I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that there is a solution in the not-too-distant future. Chair, this is only one of many parents who I am aware of who are concerned about this. And so I'm going to add a question from myself, wondering what data we have to show how widespread this problem is within the board. Thank you, Jen.
You will hand that question in to...
I
You already
will.
have, haven't
I will,
you?
physically and electronically.
There you go. All right, thank you. So those questions, we'll make sure those questions can be answered at the next board meeting, which is October 9th? No? Yes? Yes, 9th. All right, any others? I see none, so let's move on then to section 6, which is the special section for receipt. 6.1 are retirement. 6.2 is Teacher Recognition Day in Peel, which is October the 5th, coming up shortly. 6.3 is Peel Principals and Vice Principals Day, October the 10th. And 6.4 is our Bus Driver Appreciation Day for October 17th. 2018. First of all, would somebody put these on the floor? Trustee Andrews, seconded by Trustee Green. And Trustee Green, you would like to speak to something in the package.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Just 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4. I just want to really recognize the fact that October 5th is Teachers Appreciation Day. And then 6.3 is the Principal and Vice Principal Day. And then we have October 17th, our Bus Driver Appreciation Day. And these are all 3 integral group within our school board that actually have the care and control and responsibility of our student, our teachers and the vice principal are providing care and control within the school and providing support to help our school learn. But most of the kids, because of where they live, where they come from, without our caring bus driver, they would not able to get to school on time and get home because most of our parents are at work. Because this board, we serve a lot of parents that are single parents. A lot of parents come from marginalized community and in need of the buses to get them back and forth. So I just want to say from myself as a local trustee, I want to recognize these 3 groups and send a big thank you out to them, and hopefully I will be out in these days toward my school where I personally can say thank you and how much, and show these 3 groups how much we do appreciate the work that they do to ensure that our kids are coming to school and they're learning in a safe environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? I would agree that the principal, vice principal, and the teachers definitely deserve a day of recognition. Although I think that they get recognition from parents and constant feedback from students and parents. They still deserve the day, but I have to tell you, within this agenda, we will be discussing a transportation update, and I hope that we can succinctly capture the kind of serious challenge that we are having with our transportation system and our shortage of bus drivers. And so any of those that show up and drive a bus, I think we need to, particularly this year, acknowledge them and make sure that they understand what an important role they play in student success, as well as with parents who need to get to work every day on time, and the bus driver make sure that happens. And if they aren't there, of course, that doesn't happen. But we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. Okay. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of section 6? Carried. Number 7 is a delegation from Kyle Aitken, and he is here to talk about our ever challenging busing situation, or transportation situation. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm not a public speaker and I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to see how well this goes. Obviously, you knew I was coming because of the little speech beforehand. I understand it's very tough to be a bus driver. It's hard to get them, but I'm just wondering what the board has in place to deal with the issue of buses when they don't show up, if they show up late in the morning when the kids are being picked up from the bus, if the buses are late. You can't leave, say, a 5-year-old out at the corner, especially in the wintertime, waiting for the bus by themselves. You got to stay with them. So parents have to stick around and wait. The parent then is late for work, and the parent loses pay. It's the pay that's needed to keep the child in school, to feed the child, to clothe the child, but the parent's losing pay. So what compensation is there that the board has for parents when they are late for work and miss pay because they have to wait for the bus that shows up late or doesn't show up at all? We all know that when the buses are late and the kids arrive to school, they miss classes, they miss some of the education, they miss some of the bondings with their friends before school, and we all know that social development is a big part of a child's growth and well-being. They miss all that, and it affects the child when they're showing up late for class. They can't socialize with their friends. They're not learning anything about scheduling and meeting times or anything like that. They don't see any consequences when the buses are late. The child is the one that's getting penalized for it, and so is the parent. When the bus is late picking the child up from school, what policies does the board have for that? Already this year, my 5-year-old, he had to wait an hour and a half for the bus to pick him up. The bus kept reporting it's a 15-minute delay. It's a 15-minute delay. Well, there's 6 15-minute delays in an hour and a half. He was not allowed to go to the bathroom. He was not allowed to leave the hallway. There's no food because he already had his lunch and all that. Hungry. He's been toilet trained to 2.5, but he wetted his pants because he can't go anywhere. He come home starving, wet pants. What is there for the board? Is the board going to implement any kind of snack policy for the children when they're at school and the bus is late picking them up? These are all things that have to be addressed. Compensation for parents when they're late for work and they're missing pay has to be addressed by the board. I understand that you guys probably have some kind of, penalties or whatever you get onto the bus companies when they're late. Well, what happens with that? Where does that go? Is it truly effective in, getting the buses to deliver what the board is promising for the students there? You guys print out the schedule when the bus will come. You arrive there 10 minutes early. You never know, it might show up a little bit early. Wait 10 minutes. Bus doesn't come on time. You wait another 40 minutes. What is there for the parents? What is there for the students? These all have to be considered when the buses aren't here. I know, like everyone says, it's the first few weeks of school. They're just working out the bugs. That doesn't fly, I'm sorry. I mean, everybody else has to work 50 weeks a year. We only get 2 weeks off. Why can't the bus companies be working and figuring out the routes and practicing the routes leading up to the school? We know the teachers and principals are at the school a week or two beforehand, before the students show up, preparing everything for the school. Where are the bus drivers? Where are they practicing the routes? Where is the board ensuring that all the bus drivers are in place and everything's there for the first day? I'm a concerned parent. I can't leave my 5-year-old out waiting for a bus. I don't like it when he's at school. It's 40 minutes. The bus said they're going to be 15 minutes late. Well, it's been 40 minutes past. You drive to school to pick them up. The children are still sitting in the hallway waiting for the bus that still isn't there yet. They should have been there 40 minutes ago. So you drive there, you pick them up, you get them back. They're hungry. What policies, what procedures, what anything are you guys can the board implement? Can you guys put in a snack policy so the schools have snacks to feed the children when the buses are going to be late? They've already gone through all their lunch. Can you allow them to leave to go to the bathroom? According to what I heard, they can't leave the hallway because if they do and they're in the bathroom and the bus shows up, then they might not be able to get on the bus. The bus might leave without them. What can be implemented here for the students that are affected and for the parents? Again, like when the parent's losing pay to wait for the bus, that affects the child. That affects everybody. We're paying taxes to have these buses pick the children up, deliver them to school, But instead, because the buses are late, we're driving the children to school. We either have to hire someone as well, pay someone to sit with the kids at the corner waiting. It's a financial cost that should be covered with our taxes for the bus service. So I'm just really curious, and I probably could have asked this at the end of the questions. What can the board do? Can they implement some kind of snack program at the schools for the children? Can they ensure that the kids, if they have to go to the bathroom, can they leave the hallway where they're waiting to go to the bathroom? If the bus is going to be late, the bus always reports a 15-minute delay, but it's always longer than that. What does the board have in place to ensure that they're getting what they've hired the bus companies for? That's really all I would have to say. Thank you for hearing me on that. And these questions I know can't be answered right away, but it's some thought that has to be considered. And it's not just for my 5-year-old, my son in grade 8. The bus hasn't even shown up this year yet for him. He's been walking to school all the time because the bus hasn't shown up at all. So what is there? What can the board do?
Thank you for coming forward, Mr. Aiken. You express, and I know it doesn't help, but you express the frustration that this board is feeling for the last 3 weeks. We expected to do better this year, and we did not. But if we could, we have highly paid, very skilled senior administration who are spending their days working on our transportation problems. Some of the questions that you have asked can be easily answered. Some of them, well, all of them can be answered. They aren't all solutions to the problem, but I assure you they can be answered, and we will do that, and we will have an answer, for a written answer with regard to your delegation at our next board meeting. That doesn't mean that's the end of it. We in that 2-week period, we have been working with our stopper program, and as a board, we are looking for solutions that will solve this problem. I don't think there's a trustee on this board that would not agree with you and say that the service that we are providing to some schools is totally unacceptable.
If you don't mind me just saying something else here, has the board ever considered making use of, say, Mississauga Transit or the Brampton Transit system, and maybe even changing the regulations on how, when they're operating as a school bus, how the cars and all that have to obey them for children to board and all that? They have the buses, they have the drivers. They're probably better paid than what the bus companies pay their drivers. You'll probably get a lot better service out of them.
I don't disagree that there could be a solution even for our secondary school students with the public transit. And again, it's something that we're working on. But I have one trustee who has a question of clarification, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Trustee Green?
Yes, thank you for coming forward, sir, and I appreciate that. And as the chair acknowledged that all of us here at this table is very frustrated as you, but we're working around and working on some solution. But there's something that you said that really concerned me, and I just want to be clear that I'm hearing you right, that's saying that when the students are late for being picked up from school, that they are not allowing the kids to go to the bathroom. Am I clear in hearing that? Because that concerned me.
That's what I've heard, is that they have to wait for the bus.
Right.
So my 5-year-old waits in the hallway. That's where they line up for the bus in the hall of the school.
Mm-hmm.
I know that my other son had to wait in the gym all the time.
Right.
Excuse me. But I've heard they're not allowed to leave the areas, because if the bus shows up and the student happens to be in the bathroom, and it's that bus that shows up to pick them up, the students are getting on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're in the bathroom, then they might not get loaded on the bus and they might miss the bus. So that's what I've heard that is the case. I mean, I'd love to know if it's true or not. I've not had an opportunity to speak to the principals to confirm if that's the case,
Right.
but that's what I have heard.
Okay.
So, and yeah, that is concerning. As I said, my 5-year-old's been toilet trained since 2.5, but he wet his pants because he wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom, just in case the bus showed up.
Okay.
So now he's waiting in soiled pants and having to ride the bus home in it. it's sad, actually. Very
All right.
sad.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that because that lead me to basically maybe ask some question to staff to do some investigation. So thank you.
Yes, and we'll investigate that issue, and that will be included in the response.
I hope it's just hearsay about that. I mean, I really do.
I hope so too. But we're a people business, and things happen, but that shouldn't happen, and that's what we're here for, to make sure they don't happen again. So, do you have notes of your presentation? Have you given any notes of your presentation to Ms. Mueller? You have.
I already forwarded them.
Okay, that's good. It just helps us with an accurate response.
Okay.
So we will have a response for you at our next board meeting. We appreciate you coming forward.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move on then to 8.1, which is the response to the delegation regarding requesting flying flags of Canada and Ontario only in our schools. Trustee Singh, will you put this on the floor, please? Seconded by Trustee Nurse. Are there questions or comments with regard to this? Trustee Green. Oops, I pushed it. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got a call and concern from one individual. I think they were here when this delegation presented, and basically the concern is that there is the letter is basically do not address any of the concern that was raised by the delegation, and the question is why not? So I'm going to ask I know in terms of the committee that's supposed to be struck to look into this, they're looking to see whether the board was going to direct that committee to take some of the suggestion that was suggested when they're trying to put the committee when the committee start meeting, and to bring each and everyone concerned at the table to make sure that whatever procedure came up, that everyone concerned are being heard, and that at the end of the day, that every community will feel that their voice have been heard. So I'm gonna, Madam Chair, just ask to us to take a second look then at the delegation, the information that was provided, and see whether or not we addressed any of the concerns that was raised by the delegation.
I'm a little confused, Trustee Green. You talked about the committee. Are you suggesting that this would be part of the work of the committee, is to take a look at the presentation of the delegation and to ensure that they're aware of those concerns?
Well, yes, because the thing is that happened is that I think the delegation is concerned that that this board listen only to one voice and not listening to all voice. So just want to ask that when the committee is struck,
yes,
and they're looking into how to develop the policy and how we address flags within our schools, that all voice, our community must feel that their voice are being heard and their consideration has been taken in, the delegation has been taken into consideration when developing that. I don't know how we will communicate that to the individual that delegate the board, but I think at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the community feel that they're been listened to and their concerns are being addressed.
Okay, so Director Joshua will note that, of course, in our minutes, and I don't know who the executive member is of that committee, but whomever it is, yeah, we'll make sure that they understand that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. So the committee is developing the operating procedure, right? It's a small distinction, but it's an important one between policy and OP. All right, thank you. Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I have two questions. One, Mrs. Wilkinson had mentioned that the kids at a particular school were subjected to a song bashing Christianity. In the letter, I see no follow-up to this allegation. Was it ever investigated, discussed, and are there any, like who chooses what songs are played when this flag is going up? Like this was not addressed.
I believe it was investigated. I believe the staff did, in fact, investigate that allegation. It's the last two lines of the letter. We understand that the concern you raised during your delegation about a specific flag raising at a school had been addressed by the school and your superintendent of education. That's what that line means without identifying the school. But I know the Associate Director Dowling can respond to your question.
So I just wanted to know if it in fact occurred, or was there any follow-up to it?
I'll go to Associate Director Dowling. Without making this, without identifying schools and people and persons, you could tell us.
Yeah.
What, you know.
So the concern did come forward, and using our protocol, it was reviewed with the principal and the superintendent. The superintendent did do a thorough review, and there was communication back to the families involved, and there were next steps and learnings presented at the school in terms of that particular incident and planning going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And my second question is in the second paragraph. So the board approved, and just I guess for clarity in my head, the changes that were made in policy 62. I thought that this was sort of it was approved as a one-time thing, but then a committee is going to be established that will determine going forward what flags are being raised. So, but it reads to me that this is a done deal, that the pride flag, indigenous flags will be raised going forward, whereas I understood that the committee is going to outline a criteria and we're going to determine what flags will be raised.
So it is my understanding, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, that indeed this board did agree and approve the raising of the pride flag and the indigenous flags during the month of June. Done deal. And then the committee was struck to create an operating policy that would address what we know will be many other organizations or pieces of, or people from the community that will come forward and request that we recognize whatever it is that they want us to recognize. And that's what the committee's going to do. They're going to set out some criteria for, and there are some legitimate requests, and there are some not so legitimate requests. And so that criteria is going to help this board determine, not the board, but the administration, determine who, determine who is going to be able to raise their banner and their flag and who is not,
Okay.
as the requests come forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that correct? That's correct. All right, I have no other questions, and I moved and seconded it, I believe, so all those in favor? Carried. 9.1, the recommendations of the Special Education Advisory Committee of June 12th, and there's just information here for receipt. So I will ask Trustee Lawton if you would move it. Thank you for receipt, and second it. Mr. Crocker, are you on SEAC? No. Dave, oh, Trustee Green. Oh, Trustee, all right, Trustee McDonald. You aren't on SEAC, Trustee Green? No, okay, all right. Trustee K. McDonald, all those in favor? Carried. 9.3 is the, here is a report regarding this Peel Board Policy 14, which is the student assessment, evaluation, and reporting in Peel Elementary and Secondary Schools, and it is here for approval. And it has been vetted through our trustee review committee. Trustee Andrews, will you put this on the floor? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Williams. Are there questions or comments regarding the changes within this policy? People will know that we review all of our policies every term, and so by the end of this term, every single one will have been discussed, and sometimes some housekeeping changes are made, and sometimes some real significant changes are made to them. And so, Trustee Kay McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I actually have quite a few questions. The first question I have is, for the purpose of this document, how is an ELL learner defined? Is it only a kid that's born outside of Canada?
I'm sorry, a what learner?
The ELL learner.
An ELL learner.
Yeah.
Superintendent Graham, can you, no, you can't, no. Who wants to answer these questions? I might as well set somebody up with Director Joshua says he can answer. Okay, let's keep your mic on and, oh, there you go. Oops, sorry, okay.
It's okay. Through you, Chair, you were asking, just to clarify, Trustee McDonald, you were asking the designation of ELL, are they for students who are born outside of Canada?
Yeah.
We have a number of students who are Canadian born that would have the designation of ELL, and we would provide support.
And they're included in here, is it?
So to some degree, but we do, that is one of the challenges that we continue to look at the level of funding for Canadian-born ELL. It's, we don't get the level of funding that we believe that our students need. So the criteria around funding from the ministry lays certain things out, but we do have a challenge overall with the number of students and the level of support we can provide. So that's one of our areas that we focus on.
Okay, thank you. So another question is, with regards to the IEP, what steps are taken to ensure that the students' IEPs are being followed? So you have these like you list all the accommodations, but because I've actually gotten a few concerns in the beginning.
Okay, I'm going to ask Superintendent Moynihan to answer that, because our children who receive special education support have IEPs.
And I can lay the context because I've gotten calls already since startup that student's IEP and was not followed and the accommodation not given. And and even in past years, a lot of times the parents that are complaining or draw it to my attention are actually teachers, either within the board or not within the board. So my question, especially that parents that are not teachers and that are not really familiar with, the legal aspects or how to ensure that the IEP is being followed. So I just want to know how the staff.
Superintendent Moynihan? Oh, there you are. I need to turn your mic on. There you go.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yes, the IEP document is developed in collaboration with the parents. And if the parents are feeling that the accommodations and modifications are not being followed, they're not seeing evidence of that, then after having discussed that with the teacher, they would be encouraged to bring that concern to the principal, and the principal will be one who would help problem solve to make sure that the IEP is truly a living document and is being implemented in the classroom.
Okay. Thank you. Another question. In the document, like I know that the board does work on it, but I don't see it reflected under communication about assessment, evaluation, and reporting, because we have families that can't come into the schools from 9 to 3, that window of schools. So I'm just wondering if there's anywhere, I didn't see it in reading the document, that we accommodate for communication with such parents that can't come in during regular hours.
Are you specifically talking about special education?
No, not special education.
Just in general?
Yeah, in general. Policy on page 4 of the document, or page 38, under communications about assessment, evaluation, and reporting. So there is no, little blurb or two about how we communicate to parents that can't come in to the
Well,
regular 9 to 3?
I can ask for administration, but I'm pretty confident that if a parent phones a school and says, I'd like to have an appointment with the teacher or the principal or whomever it is, that they will accommodate that parent, even if it's at 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night or before school. It's been my experience that all you have to do is ask for an appointment. But that's what Associate Director Dowling was going to say. So it's really up to the parent to phone the school and say, you know, I'd like an appointment to discuss my child.
Okay, thank you. Also, when it spoke about student work, so I know at some schools they hold the student work and they are supposed to return them at the end of the year. So I'm just wondering, when students, when they have their work, who owns the work, and like what access do the parents have to it? When they said on page 39, with the learning for students, on the reporting and professional judgments, I was wondering who owns the work and what right do parents have to their kids' work?
You mean like journals and artwork and, and any work that they do within the classroom?
Yeah, or an assignment,
Oh,
their do-a-tangs.
Okay, I'll go to Superintendent Graham.
Through you, Chair. So students own their own work, and work is to be returned in a timely fashion to students. Parents would have the right to see that work afterwards. The only exception to that would be in secondary schools with final evaluations, with final exams. Those are given back to the students on a day to look them over, but then the school keeps them for a year afterwards in case students want to petition their mark afterwards.
Okay, so the work, you say, so students own their work, so a teacher cannot withhold a kid's work to the end of the year?
No, teachers can hold the work for a while until it's marked and all, and then at that point a student has an ability to request their work.
Okay, thank you. Then also you mentioned with the testing under reporting and professional judgment. So from reading that paragraph, and also on page 9 of the document, which is page 43, when you talk about averaging all marks, I just wondered if it's a standard practice or if it's subjective. So you have a test. So for example, you have a student that gets 599% in a math quiz, let's say, and 140%. So if you do like what they say of averaging all marks, so you average the 6 tests and you get 89% average. But if you say the part on professional judgment, and you said, well, you know, little Tommy was having a bad day or didn't sleep well, so then you drop off the 40%, that student gets 99%. So being a competitive world, especially in high school and getting in for grades, is there a standard practice as when the professional judgment kicks in as to you can drop off this 40%? Does the board have a, you know, any guidelines as to how you would evaluate such a student?
Superintendent Graham.
Through you, Chair. So in the Ministry's Growing Success document, they give teachers the instruction that they're allowed to look at most recent and most consistent marks. So that means teachers are not forced just to average marks across the board like that. They have an opportunity to look at a student's improvement over the course of a term or a semester, and then at the end they're allowed to use their professional judgment. We also offer up a marks program called Markbook for our teachers that is available for them to use, which actually allows them to do that. So they can calculate marks a standard way as you've described, or they can also set it so it looked at most recent, most consistent, so it can help them with that professional judgment.
Okay, so does that mean now as a parent of that child, let's say I knew there was their favorite uncle died the night before, and I said, okay, that's why they get the 40%. Can I as a parent advocate and request that that 40% not be counted towards the grade?
Superintendent Graham.
Through you, Chair, yes, a parent would be able to advocate for that for an exceptional circumstance like that, to ask that the teacher take that into account.
Okay, thank you. My last 2 questions, I'm getting there. So on page 40, it says a D is considered at grade level. So level 1, a D, and it's at grade level. So the student gets a D. It's below provincial standard. but it's considered at grade level. Am I reading this chart right? So it's not, it's below, I guess, what the provincial standard is, but it's still at grade level, so they can be promoted to the next grade.
Superintendent Graham?
Through you, Chair, you're looking at page 10 of the actual document with the chart?
No, page 6 of the
page
document.
6.
And I'm wondering specifically for high school, because I know you don't hold back the elementary kids. So if somebody in high school gets a D, so is that considered a grade level? Do they get their credit?
Yes, in high school marks, as laid out by the Ministry, 50% is a pass. So a D, as defined there from 50 to 59% in grade 7 to 12 would be considered a pass. It would not be considered provincial standard, which they use for their standardized testing like EQAO, because they use B as the provincial standard. But in terms of grading for courses, a D, a 50% is considered a pass.
Okay, so then my final question is, for level 4, you say a very, well, not you, the policy, a very high to outstanding level of achievement. Achievement is above the provincial standard, but still within the grade level. So do we have any grade for kids that are performing above their grade level? So I'm in grade 5, but I'm working at a grade 8 level. Do you identify such kids? Is there any way of making note of that or recording?
Superintendent Graham?
Through Chair, in terms of marks, you can go up to 100%, but on the report card that could be put into the comment section for the parents to read about. Okay. But it wouldn't be reflected more. We don't give more than 100%.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, how do you indicate that? Well, you have some kids that do tests and get all the bonus marks too, right? But I guess you don't give them that on the report. But how would you indicate that they are above a grade level, that they're performing above grade level?
The teacher could include that in the comment section in the report card.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. I can't remember if I moved or seconded it. Did I? I think I did, didn't I? Yes, I did. Are there any other comments with regard to policy 14? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. 9.4 is policy 56, which is the occupational health and safety. Again, it is here for approval and has some changes to it. I believe that they're all more or less updating the way in which we call certain things and some housekeeping. So, Trustee Andrews, will you move it, please? Seconded by Trustee Green. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Oops. Okay, 9.5 is the policy 52, and it is about smoking, and it is here for approval. Again, all of these have been to the Trustee Review Committee, and the changes really just reflect the current regulations. And if you see, I think we've had vaping. I think that's and sort of collected everything in the combustible material section. So I'll ask Trustee Crocker if you will move that, please. Seconded by Trustee Lawton. Any question? Oh, there is. Trustee Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm just looking at this, and I'm just for clarity, and because I know reading the first paragraph in the statement of the policy, I could challenge it, because there's, as far as I see, there's loophole, because I understand the intent of the policy, but why not say, you know, when we get down to so light herbal material example, or any other cannabis material. So why, I'm thinking because the things that happen and what this is saying to me, then that I could come in and I could put some, because people are smoking anything, grass, leaves, whatever the case might be. So why didn't we just put any paraphernalia that deemed to be of cannabis nature. For clarity, in that way, for instance, if somebody decided to light some bush, basically, there's no loophole, there's no challenge in there, because I've seen where people are smoking all sort of different things.
Well, I thought that would be combustible material, but I will.
Bush and those things are not combustible, and maybe some leaves or whatever the case might be.
All right, I'm going to defer to Superintendent Harmon.
So, through you, Chair McDougall. So we did choose the word combustible material in consultation with Peel Health, as well as a number of other agencies. It would capture basically anything that burns, anything that would be smoked, because you would be surprised at some of the things that have come across our desk. So it was an attempt to work with Peel Health and really use language that I believe shows up on one of the Cancer Society websites as well now. So it is a common phrase used across North America, simply because it sounds like everything from dried cherries to obviously cannabis to tobacco to you name it, is being combusted, for lack of a better word, and is being smoked. And it was our attempt to capture anything currently out there and anything that may evolve in the coming years.
So then, Superintendent Harmon, so this is, when he was talking with the region, the health department, this is the common phrase that they're using across the region.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Through you, Chair McDougall. I know a lot of people would like to have that button you have.
I know.
But yes, it's and it's not only us, it's across North America. I believe it's the American Cancer Society that also used the phrase combustible materials. So there's a fair amount of research that went into trying to find a word or phrase that would basically capture anything that could be burned and smoked, and that seems to be the best phrase that we could find.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I'm fine, because I was just looking, because the thing is that happened is that, as you rightfully said, and I know personally because I've witnessed this, the things that people are smoking these last days and are lighting up, and then, I didn't want to leave no loophole in the policy for any excuse for people to say, oh, but I wasn't smoking this, or it wasn't of this, right? So seeing that that's the common language, then I'm fine. Thank you.
You want to speak again, don't you? There you go.
So through you, Chair McDougall, it was a true joint effort that we were happy to get rolling.
Okay. So, in other words, anything that you can light that creates smoke, it is banned. So anything, but Trustee McDonald.
Through the Chair, I just have one question on this. I know this is a smoking policy. However, I'm not sure if we have a secondhand smoke policy or smelling of, like how you come to work, smelling in terms of drugs. So is there anywhere that would be covered if someone, like say, had reeks of, let's say, marijuana on their clothing and they're coming into the classroom?
Yeah, I don't think that we can regulate people's private time. If I could just admit that when I was in high school, nobody stood in the smoking section because, that had a stigma to it. And so we'd all pile into some girlfriend's car and we'd smoke. And my goodness, when we walked into that school after high school, we must have been like Pigpen from the Peanuts cartoon, because I'm absolutely certain we reeked of smoke. But I don't think this board wants to get into that. I don't think that with our federations and our unions, we can say, aha, we can smell that t-shirt, and you must have done something on the weekend with it. So I don't think we cover that, and I'm not sure that we could ever police it or enforce it. But if you want to raise that at some other time for trustee discussion, then absolutely. But at this point, the answer is no.
So like at the trustee review on Wednesday, I just read
It could be, I wouldn't put it to trustee review. I don't think that's the proper place for it, but certainly an information session or something like that, that you're curious about that, that subject, it could be certainly put on an agenda.
Thank you.
Okay? All righty. None other. Where am I? What was that? I thought we'd moved and seconded it, and no, all those in favor of the changes to policy 52. Thank you. Let's move on then to the September report 10.1. It is here. We just received it, I believe. Mr. Wright, would you like to just briefly walk us through it, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Briefly, the board will recall my previous oral report at the regular meeting of the board on September 13th, and I'm confirming tonight growth of 897 elementary students, September 2017 to September 2018. Also, you'll note we're reporting the end of the second week of September for the same time period, secondary growth of 345 secondary students, for a combined total of 1,242 K to grade 12 students from September to September 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, and that is good news. You know, I haven't seen reports from other boards, but I would suggest that we would be in a very advantageous situation that we are growing. We aren't growing like we used to, but we are definitely growing, and a growing board, it opens opportunities to this board, because obviously our funding is based on a per pupil basis. So every new student that we attract, we receive, I think it's around $9,000 and some odd dollars, I think that's where we are per pupil. And so that is a very good thing. So we should be happy, and that should be a good news report for us. Any comments? Trustee Singh, you'll move it, and Trustee Williams, I know, Trustee Williams, you'll second it, and you have a comment.
Yeah, would that, this number here include foreign students?
Include what?
Foreign
foreign students. Mr. Wright, does it include our international students?
I don't believe it does, Madam
No,
Chair.
I don't think so.
They pay a fee and are independent, largely independent of the government funding that you referenced.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think those 345 all showed up at Port Credit Secondary School for some reason. We haven't even discussed that problem. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Good job, Mr. Wright. See, you're still keeping us growing. Good job. 10.2 is the transportation update. It is here for receipt, and Associate Director Gill, are you giving the report? Oh, Thomas, okay. Sorry. Controller Chung.
Through you, Madam Chair. You have before you, this report is to provide an update on bus delays since school startup. STOPR has been closely monitoring deficiencies and service levels of our bus operators since startup. The first 2 weeks, as we all know, have been challenging. In addition to the bus delays, STOPR also was made aware the week before school startup of a significant number of students that also require transportation. In analyzing the data to date, in particular, 2 of our contracted bus drivers in Mississauga, namely First Student Mississauga and At-Ridge Mississauga, have been posting extended delays throughout the first 2 weeks. A written letter was issued to them within the first week, outlining penalties as well as our expectations, including removal and reassignment of routes on underperforming routes. Additional meetings were also held with all of the bus operators to reinforce and remind them that accurate delay timekeeping was a must, and that this was crucial to maintaining confidence in bus service. On September 17th, First Student Mississauga added 5 new out-of-district drivers, while At-Ridge Mississauga added 4 new drivers at that date also. From September 25th to September 27th, First Student Mississauga will be adding 7 newly trained drivers, while At-Rich Mississauga has committed to adding 5 newly trained drivers. Stop Bar Management has also investigated which underperforming routes can be reassigned to other bus companies who have the capacity to take on additional routes. In this regard, 4 routes have been removed from the underperforming Mississauga operators and will be reassigned to Switzer Cartier as of today. Thank you.
That's the facts. They don't necessarily reflect the reality, but Trustee Green.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for that, Controller Chan. And I know we have a wholesome discussion about this, and being the chair of Stopper, I know we've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Listening to the report now, and the report talking about the number of drivers that's going to be coming on board for certain bus company. Can I ask, because honestly, I really, at this point, and even though, the chair of Stopper, but the consultant itself, I'm not confident that they will give us accurate information. How can we know whether these drivers are truly come on board or sign? Do we have a mechanism that the bus company have to provide proof that these drivers are really on board, are trained and on board and ready to drive? Is there a mechanism that we have in place? And if not so, how can we then ensure that what they're telling us is the truth? Because frankly, I'm having some concern in terms of when it coming with facts from some of these bus companies.
Controller John.
Through you, Chair. Definitely, every new driver that we have been notified about, we have actually asked for the driver's name as well as the route number they have been assigned to.
Okay. So, and will that be provided to us, and how fast will that be provided to us? And are we how do we confirm that, yes, this person is really aboard and that they're, so, because they can tell us, are this somebody that is temporary for a week or two? Because the things that happen, just putting a Band-Aid over the situation is not going to help.
Through you, Chair. Yes, we have confirmed via email every time that a driver has been added and asked for that confirmation from Stopper. In terms of checking this on the ground, I have personally visited one school and have found that one driver was added as of last week. But in terms of checking every single school, no, that has not been done yet.
Okay, and one final question, Madam Chair, because the same challenge we go through year after year, that we hear from the bus company, that, the driver, they come, they train with us, and then after they train with us, then they jump ship and they gonna work for transit company because the transit company is paying more. I know that the ministry last year and the previous government had put some incentive in place for a driver to sign on, and they had to stay, I think, a minimum a year. Is that incentive still in place, and is it working? Because if that is in place, then how? Because then it should be different this year compared to last year when there was nothing in place.
Controller John.
Through you, Chair. In terms of the driver bonuses, we are of course also curious about that and did inquire with a number of the bus companies, and they have informed us to this date none of the bonuses have been paid yet.
So then we got a problem. So there's no incentive or no sort of anything in place to have a commitment from the drivers that when they sign on, they're going to stay to drive our kids.
Through you, Chair, again, this is an agreement strictly between the bus operators and the drivers. Of course, we have no involvement in this, but we did inquire with a number of them, and they have said that to date, none of the drivers have received any bonus payments yet.
Okay. And I know, because again, being a chair, that we have put some, in the new contract, some penalty to the bus company. How is that working, and how do we know whether the bus company are being fined, or payment or withhold from them? Are we getting a report from Stopper that are showing that this is taking place? Is there a report, and how often are we getting the report? Are we getting a report weekly, every other week? How is that supposed to work?
Controller Chung.
Through you, Chair, again, we receive a rolling stock report every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And based on this rolling stock report, this is how we actually penalize bus companies, or actually do not pay them for their services. Right. And approximately right now, we're talking about $2,500 per day for this previous week, plus other performance penalties which we can input.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are all my questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll leave it because I know my colleagues, they have a lot of comments to make, because again, this is an issue that we have been dealing with, and year after year, and it's, to me, you know, last year was bad, but it seems like even this year is worse, and it shouldn't be so, with the large increase, and I think we are paying over $3 million more for transportation this year compared to last year. So as I said, I'll pass it on to my colleagues because I know a number of them have comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. Through the Chair. First, I just want to follow up to Trustee Green's question about the bonuses, because I'm really puzzled. Because I was under the impression, after speaking with a bus driver, that they have gotten some bonuses last year. So when you say they haven't gotten any bonuses, do you mean for this academic school year, or since the program happened, they haven't gotten it?
Through you, Chair, this is for the previous year. What happened was, we understand that the previous government rolled out this bonus incentive program in a very hurried manner, and because of that, there have been a lot of administrative issues. But of course, this is an agreement strictly between the bus operators, the drivers, and the ministry. But we have questioned a number of bus companies, and they have stated that for the previous year, none of the bus drivers have received any bonus payments yet.
Okay, thank you. And also, you mentioned about the rolling stock report that you receive. Does that include, in that rolling stock report, the list of buses that are late every day?
Through you, Chair, rolling stock report is strictly on available drivers, assigned drivers, and a whole host of other data sets. The delayed drivers, the delays are also part of that, and it does include that, yes.
Okay, because again, you will see from some of my comments is what word should I use? It's the integrity of these reports, because even in some of the reports that we get, like the late reports, if I'm not mistaken, so buses, if they're 60 minutes late, they don't show up in that report. Is that correct?
I believe the buses that are over 60 minutes can be listed on the delay reports. That does not occur that often. The rolling stock report, I must add, also is auditable by Stopper, so they can go to the bus company at any time and audit their books on their rolling stock report.
Okay, so that report that we were shown with a list of late buses, there were no buses that were later than 60 minutes on that report. Whereas I know for a fact we have buses that were later than 60 minutes. So I'm a little confused. So do the buses that are 60 minutes late show up on the report, or they don't show up on the report?
I'm not sure about 60 minutes plus. I will go back and definitely inquire with Stopper about that.
Okay,
yes.
Because that's a huge issue. Because if we're getting a list of buses that are late, and buses that are, from my understanding, if they're more than 60 minutes late, it gets rolled term is used, roll back, but it doesn't show up. So buses that like are an hour and a half late are not reflected on that report. So again, that is not accurate reporting for us to deal with issues. And I think the integrity of the reports is a huge issue, because even these texts that you get, as a mother with 4 children, I know that invariably most of the texts that I receive are inaccurate, and I don't even look at the text anymore, because, and parents complain, what's the point? Even when you're 40 minutes late, you're getting a text that the bus is 10 minutes late. So when we have these inaccurate texts being sent, or messages or emails to parents, it's extremely frustrating and confusing, because, you know, they mean nothing to a lot of parents because they're not accurate.
Trustee McDonald, if I might, I think Associate Director Gill would like to respond to one of your questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Chair, just wanted to confirm that the delay and cancellation report does have the capability to include delays more than 60 minutes. And I have seen that delays of 75, 90 minutes in those reports.
Okay, so it has the ability. So are
Yes.
they using that ability now, or how do you use the ability, or why?
I mean, if the bus is more than 60 minutes late, the bus company has the ability to report that, and it will go on that report. And I have seen that the bus delays of 75, 90 minutes.
Okay, because I recall clearly, I'll have to flip through my notes, that the last report that we saw, we got the bus routes. We were told, or I heard, unless I misheard, that there are no reports that are 60 minutes late because they roll back and it didn't show up on the report. But I will flip through that later and I'll come to it, because I wrote down exactly what was said. So I'm a little puzzled. But moving along, again, when it comes to the monitoring the deficiencies on the buses, for example, I have gotten complaints from parents. They've had one bus and it has been rectified, but I'm raising this because you have not all buses that are being late are rectified, and I just want to verbally highlight the impact. So when you have a bus being late for 11 days, both in the morning and the afternoon, for an hour and a half, you're looking at 16.5 hours of missed instruction. Parents said to me, her son is coming home with a note from the teacher saying work pending, because they are missing so much instructions. Also, like I sympathize with Mr. Atkin when he said that, you know, about children messing themselves, but this is a sort of a slightly different scenario, because I had a case where a parent was at a bus stop waiting for over an hour. It was a hot, hot day, and their little baby in the stroller had pooped themselves. After 1 hour, she couldn't wait anymore, so she went back to change. There was somebody else at the bus stop that was standing there, knew that she went back to change the baby. But however, by the time she went home to change the baby and come back, the bus left and brought the child back to school, which meant that if a family has no other way of getting to the school, they have to wait until the husband came from work to retrieve that child. And again, this is some of the situations that occur when these buses are delayed. I've been told that a bus driver, and again, accuracy of information, a bus driver claims that they were trying to save time, so they did not pick up the student because they claimed that the student, they were late and they didn't see the student. The student was at the bus stop. The student looked on the bus, but there was an inaccurate route number on the bus. And to me, that's a very easy fix to fix. So the student watches the bus drive away, and the bus is already 45 minutes late. And then still waiting for the bus, but finally the parent drops the kid to school and realized that they were in fact left by the bus. But the excuse by the bus company is that the bus was saving time, and I think it's a poor way of saving time is leaving students that are on a stop. Also, we have a case which, and again, you say you're monitoring closely deficiencies, but for over 2 weeks, Stopper, there was a bus that doubled up on routes. So Stopper has assigned a route, but one company has decided that, you know what, we're just going to combine the 2 routes on their own will. So I think even things like that, how do we monitor what these bus companies are doing so they're not just doing whatever they please, because then it becomes a safety issue. So the principal comes to the school and she's seen, you know, so many kids coming off the bus and she's confused, and when she's asking the kids, what bus are you from? Some are from Route 2, some are from Route 4. So things like that, so it's being monitored closely, but how, you know, it should, something like that, do we have a mechanism to catch that from day one? Because a bus should not be able to double up on their own accord a route. Also,
Trustee McDonald, you are about to exceed your speaking time.
Okay. So I'll just speak to one of my most shocking ones was a bus that ended up in Milton. So again, to parents, as a trustee, it's very hard to explain how you can have a bus that is delivering kids in Brampton and ends up in Milton. So I think in terms of the closely monitoring, I think Stopper needs to do a better job at how they're actually monitoring what's happening in the bus situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lawton.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I think that many of my schools are having great difficulty with late buses. And I thank Mr. Aitken for his delegation and the trustees who have spoken. There's not a lot to add. I don't think we are suffering at the hands of these bus companies. My concern is particularly for families who have done their best when we promise that we will transport their children safely from September till June, and they have done their best to get themselves organized and make sure that they can get their children to the bus stop on time and have someone pick them up or have some daycare. And then it doesn't work. And so then they're late for work because the bus is late. And then they're told that maybe they're going to be fired because they've been standing at the bus stop with their child for 45 minutes or an hour. Not only are they concerned about the loss of employment, it creates a tremendous stress on the whole family. Our special needs students are especially vulnerable, and they are suffering as well. I do believe that I know that our staff and our administration are listening to us and to the parents through us. And I just hope that, and I know they've had many meetings with our Student Transportation Appeal Region Consortium and as well as the bus companies. And I am hopeful that we have been able to make ourselves known, make these problems known on behalf of the families. The other piece that I would like to speak to are the administrators and the vice principals and principals in our schools who are also being held back. Trustee Crocker and I share a couple of schools who have single administrators. These are principals who are sitting in the hallway with those children for 45 minutes or an hour every day, not being able to do their work because they're looking after the kids. These schools, this happened to these schools every single day last year. And then the first day of school this year, it starts all over again. These are our administrators are parents too. They have to take their children to a bus stop, maybe. And they have to pick them up. These kids that are perhaps have after-school programs, as many of our students do, and our principals are missing. They're not going to the kids' soccer games or the hockey games because they're sitting in a hallway with children. So as I said, I thank our staff and our administration who are working hard, including our director and our chair who have committed to meeting with Stopper and the bus companies. And I truly hope that we've made ourselves enough of a nuisance and have used a strong enough voice for the bus companies to understand what a difference they're making in so many families' lives and not for the better. Thank you.
Trustee Nurse.
Trustee Oops, no.
Yep.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. A comment that has been made a few times by my colleagues is the accuracy, or maybe I should say lack of accuracy in Stopper information. I think even the gentleman who delegated mentioned the same thing, that Stopper might say it's 40 minutes late, but by that time you've already been outside 40 minutes. So is that additional 40 minutes? Is it going to be coming in a few minutes? What is the disconnect between the message and reality? Who's responsible for making sure that information is updated and accurate?
Through you, Chair. The reporting of bus delays are largely reliant on the bus drivers themselves. So if you have a bus driver that believes they're going to be late, they'll radio that in, and dispatch will put that into the system. I think the disconnect happens when the bus driver becomes more late and becomes more hurried and does not have the time to report further delays. And I think that is the disconnect that is happening right now, where these problems are compounded and a 15-minute delay often becomes a 20 or 30-minute delay. We have the improved GPS systems that work with our software right now at StopR. So the staff at StopR are capable right now of noting where buses are on their routes. So if parents can connect with StopR, they can actually tell them where the bus is at any particular time right now, which we did not have the capability of in previous years.
But that's not all our buses as yet, though.
They are supposed to have them all operational shortly.
They're supposed to, okay. So for those buses, because given what's happening, my feeling is not all of them are equipped with that. Is it, do the drivers call that in, said that they're running late? Is it actual physical pickup their cell phone, they call into dispatch and dispatch updates the information? Is that usually the flow?
Through you, Chair, it's the drivers calling through their two-way radios. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments with regard to the transportation update? It was moved and seconded. Trustee Green seconded, I believe, and spoke to it. This is a complex problem that has absolutely dominated this board and our senior administration. And it is so unfortunate for all the reasons you've heard here from trustees, but as well, this board's purpose, its mandate, is student teaching and learning. And although the bus is important to get the children to the classroom, it's the classroom that it really should be our focus. And unfortunately, that just we haven't been able to do that because of this issue. Mr. Aiken, we will answer your delegation, but as you can tell, we're well acquainted with all the frustrations that you expressed to us. And the only other thing I can tell you is we are absolutely dedicated and committed to trying to solve this issue. We know how important this is. And so we are continuously looking for creative solutions. We can't get out of our consortium because the Ministry of Education mandates that every board and their coterminous board be amalgamated. And if we don't do that, then we are penalized by withdrawal of funding. So we know we have to work a different way now, because this is maybe not a unique situation, because we had it last year, but this is not a normal startup issue. This goes much deeper than that. So I can commit to everyone that it is a high priority with us, and we are doing everything possible, and things that we hadn't thought of in the past. We're doing everything we can to solve this issue. We know how important it is to kids and staff and parents. All those in favor of the... I need a mover and seconder? Oh, I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Moved by Trustee Williams, seconded by Trustee K. McDonald. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's move to 14.1, which is the response to Trustee Singh's question regarding swimming lessons as part of the curriculum. Trustee Singh, will you put this on the floor, please?
Sure.
Thank you. You want to comment to it?
Yeah, sure. I just want to thank staff for taking time to answer these questions. They were a real concern to some of my parents who feel that swimming should be in the curriculum. And looking at the answers, they're also approaching their MPPs. And looking at the answers, I mean, it becomes apparent some of the constraints that exist to make it mandatory or compulsory in the curriculum. Having said that, it's good to hear that some schools are part of the Swim to Survive program. I was shown a list, and we had a substantial amount of schools, so it's good to know that some schools are, and some children are definitely getting exposure, and work closely with the parents to see what more we can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Green. Any other comments? All those in favor? Carried. And we now move to reports from trustee representatives on councils or associations. Seeing, I do see one. I'm sorry. Trustee Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just want to let my colleague know that this coming weekend is the Ontario School Board Association Board of Directors meeting. The executive is meeting all day Friday from 10 a.m. and the board meeting started Friday evening and goes till Saturday afternoon. Should we have any concern or burning issues that you feel that needs to be brought to the table, if you could email those to me before Friday so I can bring those forward, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you think other boards are experiencing our transportation woes?
At the moment, yes, because the last executive meeting we had a number of board was in the same position as us, but to the extent that we're going through right now, I can do some inquiry and bring that back to this board after this weekend.
I think the board would appreciate that, only because I don't think the ministry, and I'm not saying the ministry can solve this. I mean, we've already given bus drivers more money, or at least, and the ministry gave funding for salary increases for our bus drivers. But I don't think the ministry understands the full depth of this problem and the number of people that it affects. And so I would just be interested if maybe the rural school boards, but like the GTA school boards, I would think that, I mean, this is about the job, I'm going to assume. It's not about the region. So it is, the fact that we just don't have enough bus drivers. And it isn't a great job, by the way, because, you know, the shifts are split, et cetera, et cetera. So would you mind, Trustee Green, just doing a little
I will.
discussion?
So, and just to add to that, I will have that discussion. But to add to that, the last executive meeting we had, we heard clearly from the new government is the representative that came to our exec told us clearly that any local issue, we now have to go to our local MPPs. So I think it's time that we start knocking on those MPPs' door and start sounding the alarm in terms of our concern and hear what they have to say, because the new government is saying that, oh, we not only talk to school board, but now you need to go to your local MPP. So if that's the direction the government is taking, then maybe we need to start reaching out to those MPP and say, okay, you know,
well,
how
as
can
you,
you help?
as you know, we're trying to schedule a meeting with our
Right.
MPPs.
Right.
There's not an overwhelming rush to accept the invitation. I think 3 MPPs have accepted to date. I checked that this morning. And so our assistant, Ms. Jardine, is going to send a reminder out to them. I mean, there is some time. I believe the meeting is in November, or suggested November. So we'll continue to try to drag them to our board in order for us to have a discussion.
And this, Madam Chair, if I may add, because I think my colleagues need to know, is not just even us here at the board. It seems as though it's what's happening right now, because even at the Ontario School Board level, in trying to get representation, or even the people that are working with the new Minister of Education to come out, sit down and talk to us, so we can build a relationship to know how we can work together cohesively and move forward to support our students. And we have not, since the new government has been placed, we have had no luck with anyone from the minister's office that has been willing to sit down with us. So I'm hoping that in the near future that might change, because we talked about at executive about building relationship and working, because we are looking out for the benefit of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for councils or associations? Seeing none, then can I please go to, where am I? Question period, and I'll go down here to our student trustee, Trustee Chongkin. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With due respect, we'd like to sort of just inquire about what programs or courses are currently in place that address financial literacy that are offered to Peelschools School Board students, along with what grade level financial literacy is introduced. And with that being said, I'd also like to inquire, is there any plan to introduce financial literacy to younger grade levels?
Complicated question. I won't ask administration to answer it tonight. If they'd rather have a little time to do that with a little more in-depth discussion. Okay, so if that's all right with you, we'll bring you back the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Oris Nadnova? Is it Nadnova? Nadnova. Okay. Hang on here. We got everybody. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to take this moment to address the walkouts that occurred in Peel South last Friday, September 21st, in protest of the changes to the HPE curriculum made by the new provincial government. So afternoon classes were missed by those who chose to peacefully protest the changes outside. So my question is, how do we as a board address these issues and allow students to have a positive and productive outlet for their concerns? Thank you.
Again, do we want to put some thought into that question? Or would someone like to take a go at it? Associate Director Dowlingwood.
Thank you, through you, Chair McDougall. Thank you for the question. You're correct in identifying we did have about a half a dozen schools where there were ranging in numbers from 7 to, I think, 100 was the largest of students that did use their voice and their feet to be able to identify some concerns. There were multiple ways through our student councils, through our student governance that we have here. It's a great opportunity to identify politically how to bring forward messages. That's one avenue. Also, we can take back, I would like to bring back a more fulsome response, but I think that when we talk about student voice, we have existing structures in our schools and then also here through our School Council Presidents Association, and we can take some of that back and talk about different avenues that you can avail yourself of. Thank you.
Okay. It's a good discussion point. Trustee Andrews. Trustee Long. Trustee Nurse. Over here. Trustee Crocker. Trustee McDonald.
So thank you. I just wanted to thank just anybody who has any role in helping to resolve the busing issues, and especially Controller Tong. Thank you so much for, I know it's probably a very thankless time for you, but we deep down do appreciate what you've been trying to do to resolve the situation, and I know your hands are tied. And Associate Director Gill, thank you so much too. I appreciate your patience and just your calm, thoughtful, how you go about doing stuff. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also, especially to the amazing administrations, especially those who have not been able to pick up their kids from school, who have missed so many important events in their children's lives. So I'd like to thank them for that, and especially, I know it's sometimes you get in trouble when you single out people, but I really want to thank Leanne Rathburn and Jill Taffer that have just gone above and beyond, and also Jan Crowfoot, and especially Susie Ho, who has been riding a bus so that kids coming to a Brampton school do not end up in Milton. We really appreciate that, Susie. To our teachers that navigate kids missing so much instructional time, and to the dedicated bus drivers that are doing 2 and 3 runs to help sometimes, and to help and alleviate, and have to sometimes face the brunt of frustrated parents when they're only trying to make a bad situation better. So thank you, bus drivers, and thank you for transporting our most vulnerable possession, our students and our children. And I know personally, I say every time my kid comes off the bus, I give him an extra hug, and I'm sure a lot of parents do. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Williams. Trustee Singh. Trustee Green.
I'm not going to call my school name, but I just want to say this week I had last week, I had the opportunity to be in one of my high school, and I tell you, I went out to even Friday night to watch the kickoff of the football game under the light, and the energy that was in the school, and the collaboration and staff and everything. I tell you something, it was like at a Christmas party or a birthday party for my son or my daughter, just to see everybody come together, and the parents that came in just to support the student. It was an amazing evening, and I won't. We have a retired principal there, and I'm telling you, woo, boy, man, the stuff that is happening is just amazing. And I in due season, in due time, I personally will publicly thank that retired principal for the work that's been done, and the staff for the great work that they're doing, and to congratulate the students and the parents. It was an amazing evening. Thank you.
So, did they win?
Beg pardon?
Did they win the football game, number one?
Well, the junior got, I won't say the score, but they lost.
They lost, okay.
Yeah, but the senior did better.
Okay, so now stop being cheap and name the school.
No, I won't name the school. Because I'm not going to pay.
You can't afford $1 to name this outstanding school.
I will name my school in due time.
I'll pay the $1. Go ahead. Okay.
We'll leave it for another day, but it's just, was,
We have a little deal
one of those.
We have a little deal around the board table that you can, at this time in the meeting, you can give comments, and they're usually good comments about your schools and the wonderful things they're doing. But if you name the school, you owe the bank $1, and we donate that to the United Way. So that kind of keeps everybody in line, sort of. Okay. Trustee, okay. Is there any questions from the public? Yes. Please come to the podium, and if you would state your name, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Paul Wilkinson. Just want to make sure I understand, so that in response to the 3,000 signature petition that we delivered 2 weeks ago, the board's answer to that is that they will not reconsider only flying the Canadian flag on the pole. Is that correct? Or?
Can you just repeat? I just missed that last little part.
Sure, is that better? So the response to the petition is no, that the board will not reconsider the policy on the Canadian flag. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that is correct. The board has made a decision, as we spoke about it tonight, to fly the Pride flag and the Indigenous flag during the month of June, and the committee's looking at the possibility of other people asking if we would display their banner or their flag.
Okay, and is there any room for reconsideration?
I can't. You're.
Sir, if I intervene,
There it is. Is that better?
step away, yes.
Yes, there you go. Step away. Step away from the podium.
Would there be any? Why would there not be any reconsideration of that policy given the petition that was delivered?
Well, that would be up to an individual trustee of the board, and there is the ability to reconsider a motion. But again, that would have to be a motion that a board member would put forward. And so there doesn't, yeah, there's a bylaw around it about how long you have to wait till you do a reconsideration, and what percentage of the board has to agree to reconsider. It's in our bylaws, it's very formal, but absolutely any trustee around this board could do that. But it has to come from an individual trustee, and then of course they need, at this point it would be 2/3 of this board to agree.
Very good, thank you.
Just to reconsider it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'll, Mrs. Soplet, but did you want to speak to the board as well? This lady here in the, yes. If you just identify yourself, please.
My name is Karen Gobro. And we have
So you need to become more intimate with the podium.
We'll get it right. My name is Karen Gobro, and we have 2 children that are currently in the Peel board, but we have had 4 kids previously in total go through the Peel board system. I really appreciate the time and the care that was taken tonight in addressing Mr. Aiken's transportation concerns. And I would just like to express that I do not feel that a similar time and care was taken in responding to our concerns about the flag. I feel like that was a flippant comment to say that it was a done deal. And I don't feel like we got any direct answers about, I'd like to understand what was the process that was taken in discussing the flag policy. I'm concerned that now you have admitted that there's going to be room for legitimate and not so legitimate flags or groups to come forward and express the need for their flag to be raised. I believe you've opened up an entire can of worms, and personally I feel Mrs. Wilkinson did an impeccable presentation last week, and I'm just not sure that it was honored by the response that we've received tonight. It did come across as quite flippant, and like perhaps there was not an open-mindedness to the very valid arguments that she raised, and that I'm really disappointed by that as a member of the Peel board.
We would be happy to discuss process with you, because I believe
Sure.
that all the trustees around the board agreed with the process, and we're a part of the process, and we believe it was an appropriate process.
I would love some more information about
Okay,
that.
so
Absolutely.
we'll make sure that even if you'll wait, we're almost at the end of the meeting,
Okay.
and I'll come and make sure I have your contact information
I
and
appreciate
everything
that.
like that.
And I understood
And I'm
that-
sorry you feel that way, because I mean, as the chair of the board, I reviewed the response. I thought it was respectful and thorough. You're right. We didn't get into the pros and cons, because this board has made a decision. And so the administration's job is to implement the decision, and it is up to the board to create that policy. And so we made that decision. I'm sorry if you're offended by the done deal. I don't mean to be flippant about that, but it has been approved.
So
And
I'm sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Was there a written response to what was raised last week by that delegate?
Oh, yes.
Okay, we were not given a copy of that.
Pardon me? Oh, I can give it to, it's in this agenda, is it not? Yes, I'll again, after the board, are there copies up there? No. Okay, that might be a bit of a slip. So yes, we did a written response, as we always do to delegations.
Okay, you did not
I'll share
receive
that with you after the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I would really like to know what the recourse is, because at this point, just speaking as a parent,
yes,
if the flags are being flown in June, then it would be my inclination to withdraw my children for the month of June, and I would like to know who is going to protect me in that decision that is very much in line with my religious beliefs and my personal convictions.
Right. So, again, let's have a little offside discussion, because I think I've explained that the board has approved it. There is the ability to reconsider it, but it has to come from an individual trustee in order to do that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I know there's this gentleman. I'm not avoiding you, Mrs. Soplat. I'm just letting the rookies come forward. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Vice Chair, Directors, Associate Directors, Honorable Trustees, and also admin. It's my first time, so I'm not sure if I'm supposed to address you all. But I'm doing
Sir,
that.
can I remind you, though, that, and I love the address. That's always nice, respectful.
Good.
But this is question period. So
Yes.
I'm just hoping you're going to ask us a question and not give us a delegation.
Okay, no
Okay.
problem. My name is Pastor Richard. I am a concerned pastor in a local church in Brampton. And two concerned citizens ahead of me have actually asked the question about the flag. And so I'll just reiterate, my concern is, is this a permanent decision? If it is a permanent decision, is there a permanent change to the bylaws? Has that been posted? So that's two questions. The next question is, if it's a permanent change, what measures will you have? Because you made the decision for June, right? So I'm just wondering, this is is this a social science kind of temporary initiative, or is it permanent? The next thing is, if it's permanent and you're changing the bylaws, what will that look like for other groups? What's the criteria? How do you determine that? I think it's very important for us as a concerned populace to know and to have that answered.
Yes, sir.
And to also know how we can approach it. Like, for instance, you know, what do you deem as, you know, appropriate, or what do you deem as an appropriate idea or group that should be able to post their flag or fly their flag?
Okay.
You know, how do you determine that? And I would like to, the same courtesy that you're paying this very lovely citizen ahead of me, I would like to have the same
Sure.
information.
We can certainly give you a synopsis on the process,
Yes.
process by which we followed. I can tell you that because the board approved the flying of the pride flag and the Indigenous flag, it is permanent. There is the ability to reconsider a decision, any decision of this board. As I said, that is part of our bylaws, and any trustee could put forward a motion to reconsider or rescind, for that matter, any motion that we have previously approved. But it has to come from the board. So, yes.
So what do we do? Do we try and isolate one of the board and send a letter, or?
Well, sir, if you have a trustee, you have an elected public trustee that represents your community or you at this board table, you could certainly approach them, give them your concerns about the policy to fly the flags. It would be up to that individual trustee whether or not they carry that forward to this board or not. So that is one way you can do that, and they're democratically elected to represent you at this board table.
Right.
You asked if it was posted. The flying of the flag and the board's approval of that was posted on our website, and that would have happened last May. Your third, it is a policy. So we have adjusted our flag policy. We have a flag policy, and so we have made amendments to it. The criteria that we're going to create for other groups, we're extremely concerned about that as well. We want to be seen as inclusive and fair, and so that's what this committee that we have formed is going to do. They're going to look at what is legitimate criteria, and so that we will be able to make those decisions in the future when other groups approach us.
What's the committee called?
Help me, the committee is called the Flag Raising Committee. It came out of the motion to fly the flags.
Okay. And is there any idea of the length of process, the length of, how long it will take to make the decision and isolate these or itemize these criteria?
I would certainly hope that it will be done by the end of the calendar year. We got a lot of things on our plate right now, but we also know that we have many groups in our community that are anxious to speak with us about what they would like to see as well. So we're going to balance that properly. You know, there's an election as well, and rightly or wrongly, that monopolizes the entire municipality, and that includes school trustees. I'm not saying we aren't doing business, but we're busy, and so look at transportation. I'm telling you, we've spent hours trying to solve this issue.
I've heard.
The transportation issue.
Okay.
So I'm hoping by the end of 2018 that they'll have some criteria and recommendations for this board. It will come back to the board. It will be vetted by the board. It will be public, and I suspect it won't be perfect.
Okay. So we can address it at that time.
You can certainly have your input into it. It'll be a public document.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, I had, is there someone else? Oh, there's two more. Okay, okay. Yes, whomever. Welcome.
Thank you. Pam Wilkinson. Question with regards to the situation that happened at my child's middle school.
Yes.
And forgive me, I mean no disrespect, but the answer could not have been more prevaricating about that tonight in response to the question that Trustee McDonald asked.
Yes.
With regards to the song that was played, she asked a very clear question. Did that in fact happen at a public school? And the answer to that, which was given so indirectly here with great prevarication, is yes, in fact, it did. I have the letter from the trustee right here, from the superintendent right here that was given to me at the time, if anyone would like to see it. There's no prevaricating that's necessary. It did in fact happen in a school in Peel, and it's unacceptable.
Yes.
And no prevarication was necessary. That should have been openly admitted and apologized for. I had to fight for a month to get an apology just from my daughter for that, and there's been no apology made to the children at the school. So my next question, my question that I have for you here, because there is a question in this, how will kids across this board be protected because they have charter-protected religious freedom rights, freedom of association, freedom of conscience, protected by the charter? How are the leaders of this board proposing to protect minors? You do not have the right to hit delete on their charter-protected rights. How are you going to ensure that what happened at my child's middle school never happens in this board again, including the forcing of children to go to a pride rally who choose not to do so? You could not go to homes in this region and say, we raised a pride flag at the end of the street, we are forcing you out of your homes and you're going down the street and you're going to go to the pride rally. And yet, anyone who wants to do so is welcome to do so. You can knock on doors and you can invite people. If they choose not to go, they have the right to not go, because this is not North Korea. But in schools across this region, that's exactly what happened. That is a violation of the rights of children, and they're too weak to even understand and defend themselves. I would like to know how we're going to keep this from happening again.
We would absolutely agree with you. That is not our intention, and certainly would not be the instruction that was given when we were communicating the approval of raising the pride flag and the Indigenous flag. Again, I think I'm not going to try to answer all of that, but I'm going to ask Associate Director Dowling if she will get your information. Well, we know we have your information, we know that. But you very much need a clear and direct answer. And there is a way that this board communicates to its, through its superintendents of education, to its principals. They have their own meetings monthly, and our principals want direction from their superintendents and from this board and the senior administration, because it makes their job so much easier. We obviously missed a beat here, and we absolutely agree that that should never happen again. That is not our intent. Inclusiveness means including everybody and their rights within our schools, making everybody feel comfortable. And so I, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, would apologize for that and tell you that we will do better. So, but I know that Associate Director Dowling can reinforce that and can give you the A's and B's of how that happens.
Okay, just one final thing to add, and this is with regards to the letter that I have that I received in June when I was dealing with this issue with the school. Sorry. And that is the idea that in future, literally, I'll give you a copy of the letter if you'd like to see it. It literally says basically that the same exact thing will happen in June again, and if parents don't want their children to be forced to go to a pride rally, they are welcome to take a day off from school and pick them up. Now, as the gentleman mentioned who was up here earlier talking about transportation, those of us who work for the school board are really fortunate. We have a lot more options in terms of days we can take off. Most parents work 50 out of 52 weeks a year, and they get 2 weeks off a year, and they have that 2 weeks to spend with their family. They should not have to take a vacation day in order to keep their child's rights from being violated by the school board. That's not right. So I would like that to not be an option. We accommodate Jehovah's Witness children who don't want to go to Canada Day celebrations. I expect Christian and Muslim children to be respected who do not wish to go to a pride rally. We can't force the general population to do that. That is a choice that people can make. It should be a choice for children in school too. They are citizens of this country and they have the same rights, and the school board doesn't get to suspend them. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. That is very discriminatory to parents who have no choice but to go to work. It's discriminatory to new immigrants who have no one to call to pick up their children. If they can't get them, they can't get them. It's not fair. It's discriminatory to families who are on lower incomes, who must be at work and cannot take a day off to pick up their children. They should not have to choose between their religious belief compromise and their jobs. It's not right.
And again, it's not our intent to do that.
Except that that's what's in the letter that came from the board.
Well, and again, I have great confidence that Associate Director Dowling can address those concerns with you. Not to get into it all, but we accommodate many parents on things that they don't want their children involved in. Can I suggest the health and phys ed curriculum? Those kinds of things, and we work with parents, and we resolve those issues, and we absolutely respect the rights of parents when it comes to their children. So there's no argument here. There's no argument about how, it's just how we go about doing this.
Okay, can I ask for something in writing that then contradicts the letter that I've already received from the board, which says that that will not be given as an option to parents? They can pick up their kids.
Well, I'm going to allow Associate Director Dowling to address that, okay? Okay? I just think it'd be more thorough and accurate and meaningful.
Okay, I would like a public answer to be given, though, because that's a very private answer that allows her to say, forget it,
No,
we
I
don't care what you
understand.
think. I'd like it
I
to be public.
understand. I understand.
Okay.
I understand what you want. I understand what was said. And so I think we can work together.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Please come forward. Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
So.
Okay.
There,
So,
that's better.
My name is Stacy Mears, and I have 3 children who have gone through and going through the Peelschools board right now. So I just wanted to say, like, from the observation of what happened a couple weeks ago from the talk that Pam had given, the speech that she gave, the media did a different spin, took a totally different direction on that, and did not accurately communicate what was actually said. The original concern wasn't communicated accurately, so people don't really, to my understanding, take what happened if they're looking just at the media piece itself. And also, as quoted by yourself, that there are options for people to opt out of different things in the curriculum. That's actually not accurate from my experience. I was told with the sex ed, which I was one of the parents where I did keep my son home for a week. And because for my daughter, for her to opt out, she was sent to detention with one of the meanest teachers in the school. That's where she spent the sex ed time by herself in detention. So my son, I just kept him home. I'm thinking, you know what, that's not okay, because I didn't want that level of sex education at that age. It's not appropriate. It's not necessary, in my opinion, okay? That's my opinion. So I'm just wondering, to me, that was a misquote, and there's not an actual option for parents or for the children to be able to opt out safely with confidence that they're able to do that. And my question too is, you have communicated a couple of times, okay, we'll take that off record, we'll talk about it after. Even after Pam's speech 2 weeks ago, there was additional conversations that were had after the fact. The public doesn't hear any of these other conversations, so they don't actually know what's being said.
And
So
what
they
I'm
don't know.
asking you, ma'am, is if you want to delegate this board, then we have an ability to do that within our agenda. But this is question period.
Okay,
so
my
we can't
question
go
is,
into...
my question is, why are they're saying, well, we'll talk about that after, we'll have the conversation after, we'll give you that information after. Why isn't it public? Why?
It is
if there's
public. It is absolutely public. And I don't want to argue with you. This is question period. I encourage you to delegate this board if you want more of a conversation with regard to, and let's pick a subject for you, let's pick opting out of the human growth, and I forget what it's called, human growth module of our HPE curriculum. If that is of concern to you, and if you are saying that you didn't have that option, I would tell you that I have and know information that this board went to great lengths in order to get a handle on the parents who did not want to be part of that unit, but was part of all the other healthy eating and wellness of the curriculum. I know for a fact that our principals worked very hard in order to do that. And if that didn't work for you, I need you to speak with your principal. I need you to speak with your superintendent of education, because again, that is not this board's intention.
Okay. I did call. I did have a concern and a complaint about it, and they said, well, that's what we're offering. So if your child doesn't show up, they don't get the marks, and that's
well,
your
again,
decision.
this
So-
is question period,
Okay, but
and
my-
I'm
but
going to ask you to stop, because we're no longer questioning and answering, we are debating. And so again, I'm not trying to hide anything on behalf of this board. I am suggesting that our senior administration, that is their role. Most of the time, they are problem solvers. And if there are some individual problems, this board expects that our superintendents and senior admin will solve those problems, except for transportation, which is difficult, but we're trying. So I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm trying to satisfy you and give you an authentic discussion around a solution. If you want further, it is not at question period that you do that. You come forward and delegate the board, or talk to your local trustee, or talk to your principal.
Okay, well, the intention of my question was just to say, why is there so much off-light afterwards? So I apologize. if it's
And
a
I'm only
debate, that's
trying,
not my
because this
intention,
isn't the
so-
right vehicle to be giving detailed, this isn't the right time to be giving detailed information, taking the time to be thorough in answering your concerns. That's all. You want to delegate the board, there's a lot more time, and you get a formal answer written from a delegation.
Okay, so where would we find the follow-up to the questions that were being asked here that was said that this follow-up was going to be sent? Where would we as public be able to find the responses, the conversation, the questions that went back and forth?
You're absolutely correct, and it won't be from question period. So, and that's very clear, that those questions, those answers are not printed in our agenda. If you want a written, printed question answered, you need to delegate the board.
Okay.
I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate vehicle to do so. Not question period. It's just not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is that gentleman waiting to speak? All right.
Hi, I'm Miriam Antoine.
Yes?
And I know this is a question period, but I'm not getting any answers. So I'd like to know what is going to happen. I want to know what's going to happen to the individuals in the school that had the song Disrespecting Christ at the Pride raising of the flag. I want to know what's going to happen to them. Can I get an answer for that?
Well, I know that Associate Director Dowling will look into that. I can't even comment, and this is meant with no disrespect, but I can't comment on if it happened, what happened, and when it happened. So that is what our staff do. They investigate concerns.
Okay, it's been a while ago. I'm wondering how long is it going to take to get some answers?
Well, I don't know how long.
A lot of the past people that have gone before me, I've had the same questions, and they're asking the questions that I want to know, but I'm not hearing any answers. All I'm hearing is you saying that it's question and answer time, but I'm not getting any answers from you at all.
Okay, so I'll make sure that your questions are addressed.
Okay, so can I have an answer?
Not right
Also,
now, not tonight.
My daughter goes to Peelschools.
Yep.
Right? I don't want my daughter standing up to a pride flag.
I understand that.
I signed. I'm one of the 3,000 people that signed for that not to happen. Do the 3,000 signatures that you receive make a difference to you? Do you care about those signatures?
Of course we do.
So I don't understand how you came to the decision that you did.
Well, we came to the decision that we did last May, first of all, and there was a process to it, which I've already said we will be pleased to explain the process that we went through in order to put the subject on the board table, and this board approved that. Now, happy to discuss that with you as well. You want us to print it on the website, we'll do that
An
too.
answer as to why you just ignored 3,000 signatures, that's all. It seems like Christians are being pushed out of the school.
Okay, so
It
this
doesn't seem
isn't
like
a
any-
question.
I'm actually
I
asking.
answered the question.
Are you trying to push Christians out of the school? 'Cause that's what it
I
seems to me.
answered the question, that we do care about the 3,000 petition,
Okay.
but this board has approved a motion.
Regardless. So it doesn't matter about
At the
3,000
moment,
opinions.
regardless, the motion is approved and included in our policy.
Okay.
And I've already explained how that could be changed if it was the will of the board.
Okay. And did you mention, was it my mistake, or did you mention that you get $9,000 for each child that attends?
I'd have to confirm it, but I think
I
it's a
think it was
little
you
over
that said
that.
it.
Pardon me?
I think it was you that said it. Am I
Oh, I
wrong?
did.
Okay, so you get $9,000 a child? That sounds right.
Associate Director Gill, is that about right? Please, I want to make sure I'm accurate. I think it was I think it's over 9, but.
Madam Chair, I think it's around 9,500.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
just
for your
under
time.
$10,000.
I mean, we can confirm the exact amount. I just don't have it in my head. I think it's around that.
Okay, well, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Mrs. Soplet, you've been waiting. I'll ask you to come down to. And you're well aware this is question period.
Yes. Through you, Madam Chair, there was an interesting article in the Mississauga News concerning views of yourself and other trustees on the board concerning the democratic process and inclusion of trustees in public meetings, trustee candidates in public meetings. I was wondering if you would care to comment.
Well, that's interesting that you said that. I think most trustees received that article written by John Stewart. He was doing a profile on the role of the trustee. And I think most people would be aware that not all communities have all candidates meetings and homeowners associations. But those that do continuously ignore the school trustee and the importance of that role. And so I take it upon myself to try to advocate on behalf of democratically elected boards of education and the importance of public education within our community. And so I did say that. I thought the quote was excellent. That when your garbage isn't collected, it's unfortunate, but when your child can't read, it's a travesty. And I don't understand why people do not understand how important public education is. Keep working on it. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I'll move on to someone move the adoption of the in-committee report, please. Trustee B. McDonald, seconded by Trustee Williams. All those in favor? Carried. And adjournment. Oh, Mr. Cameron's going to, okay. Okay, Vice Chair Nurse is going to move adjournment, and it's going to be seconded by Trustee Lawton. All those in favor? It's carried. And I'm happy to come up and speak with the people that I made the commitment to around getting you the answers you deserve.